In the year 2000, Activision acquired the exclusive rights to publish Spider-Man games. By the end of 2001, they already had 2 Spider-Man games under their belt, the classic Spider-Man 1 game developed by Neversoft, and its sequel, Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, developed by Vicarious Visions, both of which released on PlayStation 1. Activision had no intention of slowing down with their Spider-Man games, and in late 2001, they announced their acquisition of game studio Treyarch, who would be working on their next Spider-Man game, this time for next-gen consoles, PlayStation 2, Xbox, and Gamecube. Treyarch had some experience with Spider-Man games prior to this though, as they were the team that developed the Dreamcast version of Neversoft's Spider-Man. However, Treyarch weren't originally tasked with handling a Spider-Man movie game, and were instead working on porting Neversoft's Spider-Man to PlayStation 2. In a quote to usgamer.net, lead game designer Tomo Moriwaki describes how they ended up working on a movie game. It kind of crept up on us. I think it started off as an opportunity to port the 2000 Neversoft Spider-Man game to PlayStation 2. We started in on development and figuring stuff out, and then in the midst of that, it kind of transformed into a Spider-Man movie deal. Because that was all big news, and Activision signed its deal with Sony Columbia and got some number of games that it had some kind of right to. Tomo further goes on to describe how the team adapted to handling a Spider-Man movie game. One of the many ways that you could describe the 2002 Spider-Man game is us just trying to keep up with Spider-Man. And in a lot of ways, it became us mimicking the Neversoft game whenever possible. We just tried to cope with and adapt to the movie script and fulfill our responsibilities. It was our first experience with a really big licensed client, and so I think even though we might have had terrible attitudes, we kept our heads down and did the best we could. Developing a game based on a movie also brought the team some unique challenges, one of which was trying to match the tone and story of the movie while only having a limited time with the movie script. In another quote to usgamer.net, lead animator James Zachary describes that experience. Activision had the script and we had like 2 hours where we were locked in a room and you couldn't bring anything in there, so you had to read the script within the room. And then when we were done, we'd just start writing stuff. We'd leave the room and just start writing notes down like, okay, we do this, 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 and this. And then when we saw the film, a lot of the stuff we'd read in the script, like the ending and so forth, wasn't even in the film, it just changed. And luckily we didn't follow the film to a T, so we had some liberty there. Using Neversoft's Spider-Man game as a starting point, Treyarch wanted to take everything that game did well and improve upon it. Besides the major graphical enhancements, one of the major areas that the team focused on was combat. For this game, Spider-Man is now much more effective at aerial combat and is able to fight enemies who take to the skies. The explorable world is also much bigger, giving the player more freedom to explore the city, although you still can't go down to the streets without dying. Treyarch also enhanced Spider-Man's combat prowess, giving him over 30 combos to use against enemies. The game also includes a few cast members from the film returning to voice their respective roles in the game. Specifically, we have Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man and Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. Bruce Campbell is also in the game, listed as tour guide. Bruce had a cameo appearance in the first movie as the ring announcer that gave Spider-Man his name. We'll talk more about their performances and the rest of the cast a little bit later on in the video, but for now, let's start to get into the game itself. Treyarch were given 18 months to develop their game, and on April 16, 2002, Spider-Man was released to PlayStation 2, Xbox, Gamecube, PC, and Game Boy Advanced. For this video, we'll be focusing on the console versions of the game, which were the ones developed by Treyarch. All the gameplay you'll be seeing in this video come from the PlayStation 2 copy of the game, but played on the PC emulator PCSX2, which helped me to boost the graphics. However, the Xbox version has an exclusive level featuring Kraven the Hunter that we'll talk about as well. Unfortunately, I couldn't get an Xbox emulator working in time, so for that level specifically, I have gameplay recorded straight from the original Xbox, so you'll notice a decrease in graphical quality for that level specifically, but that level alone. If this is your first time visiting the channel, we'll start next by discussing the game's story, before digging into its gameplay and other features a little bit later on. Before we get into the story, I want to give a special thank you to Atlas VPN for sponsoring this video. With a VPN, your internet traffic goes through an encrypted tunnel which hides your IP address and online activity, maintaining your privacy while using the internet. Even better, Atlas VPN also blocks malicious links, unsafe websites, and will alert you if someone is trying to steal your data. Right now, Atlas VPN is running a huge discount where you can get a 3-year subscription for just $1.39 a month. There are additional perks to using a VPN besides just internet privacy, and I personally enjoy using Atlas VPN to unlock exclusive Netflix content from different countries. Netflix keeps certain movies and shows locked to specific geographical regions, and with a VPN, you can now view content that otherwise wouldn't be available to you. For example, I was recently able to access Australia's exclusive Netflix catalog and rewatch Spider-Man: Homecoming and Venom, something I wouldn't have been able to do with my US Netflix account. Atlas VPN is available on Android, iOS, Windows, and Apple devices, and you can have unlimited devices linked to your account. If you decide that Atlas VPN isn't for you, they also provide a 30-day money-back guarantee. There are a ton of benefits to using a VPN on your devices, and now is a great time to try it out. If you use the link in the description below, you can access Atlas VPN's Christmas deal with 86% off plus an extra 3 months for free, but that deal won't last long, so make sure to secure it while you can. But now, let's get into the story of Spider-Man 1.
This is how my story begins. My Uncle Ben and Aunt May raised me like a son. They never had much money though. I thought my powers could help make up for that. The last time I saw Uncle Ben alive, we argued. I took out my frustration in the ring. Poor Bonesaw never even saw me coming.
No more Mr. Nice Guy!
The fight promoter cheated me, so I didn't think it was my problem when he got robbed.
Somebody! Stop him!
12 Henry, call back on that 187 in connection with the carjacking at the 42nd Street Library.
10-4. Suspect is believed to be a member of the Skull's gang. Proceed with caution.
The opening cutscene does a good job at recapping Spider-Man's origin from the movie, and places us at the moment where Peter hunts down Uncle Ben's killer. Peter changes into his human spider wrestling outfit, and we're free to explore the city's rooftops for criminals. I think this is an effective first level since it shows off the scale of the city and how much freedom the player has to explore right off the bat. Even though the city and swinging look pretty basic compared to today's standards, this was a huge improvement compared to the PlayStation 1 Spider-Man games. Not only was there a massive graphical boost, but the city itself felt larger and more explorable. The PS1 games only had a small number of buildings in a given area, and they were more like platforms to get from one area to the next. Here, there's a much larger quantity of buildings to swing to, each with their own varying heights, making the city feel more realistic. To help the player navigate these various rooftops, Treyarch added this height meter, indicating in red how high the player is, while blue shows the height level of the next objective. Using this in tandem with the Spidey compass helps the player to locate their next objective without constantly swinging past it. In the game, Uncle Ben's killer is part of the Skull Gang, so our first mission is to find various members of that gang and learn where Uncle Ben's killer could be hiding. In the movie, Uncle Ben's killer is just a mugger and not affiliated with a gang, so I think this was a good change to give us enemies to beat up. The Skull Gang were also an original creation for the game, although they could be a subtle reference to the Blazing Skull Gang from Amazing Spider-Man number 250. Nevertheless, we go from rooftop to rooftop until we finally find a henchman willing to talk. He tells us that the killer is hiding out in an old shipping warehouse near the river, so we head there next. Once inside, we fight our way through a bunch of skull thugs until we eventually find Uncle Ben's killer. This is our first boss fight, and I was surprised at how difficult this guy was. Once you get within range of him, he'll start to blast away at you using his shotgun, and he does some pretty big damage in a short amount of time. He's also good at dodging any web bullets you send his way, and he'll even throw a flashbang to disorient you if you're in his face too much. I like the challenge of this fight, but it never felt clear if the game wanted me to approach it with stealth or aggression. I tried stealth first since that's how this fight went in the movies, but ultimately I found more aggressive tactics to work best, mixing ranged web shots with up-close combos. In some ways, it was kind of a frustrating fight, but I like that it got me to incorporate Spider-Man's web attacks into the mix more frequently at least. After doing enough damage though, Spider-Man is able to get up close to him and realizes it's the mugger he let go after being gypped at the wrestling arena. Peter is stunned with self-guilt, but luckily the mugger trips and falls out the window, presumably dying in the process. Peter then flees the scene and heads to a skyscraper to contemplate his life as well as Uncle Ben's last words to him.
These are the years when a man becomes the man he's going to be for the rest of his life. Just be careful who you change into. You're feeling this power of becoming a man, and with this great power comes great responsibility.
Uncle Ben. Nothing could ever fill the hole left when he died. Those wounds never really heal. The beautiful redhead is Mary Jane Watson. The guy is Harry Osborn, my best friend. They stuck with me after Uncle Ben died. Harry's dad, Norman, was great too. He even let Harry and me stay in one of the apartments he owned after we graduated and moved into the city. I got a job with the Daily Bugle, taking pictures of myself. Life sure is strange sometimes. No matter how much you want to hold on to a moment, you can't stop time from moving on.
General Slocum has given Oscorp a week to prove that we can develop a working serum. Or we are going to lose the contract to Quest Labs, given how much we have invested in this research. Losing the contract could bankrupt Oscorp. I can only assume that Spider-Man relates to our problem in some way.
Yes, Mr. Osborn. As that video showed, Spider-Man possesses all the attributes our project hopes to create. We hypothesize that he has augmented spider DNA in his system and feel certain that an analysis of his blood will enable us to complete our serum. We can modify the hunter-killers to track this DNA signature and capture Spider-Man.
Do it.
Up until now, the game has pretty closely resembled the plot of the movie, but now it's starting to take more liberties with the story. In the movie, Peter and Norman gain superpowers around the same time, where in the game, it seems Spider-Man has already been around for a while. Also in the movie, Oscorp has a military contract where they've been tasked with developing a serum to basically create super soldiers. Oscorp is at risk of losing that contract though, since all of their experiments thus far have been failures. In the game, Oscorp want a sample of Spider-Man's blood in order to replicate his abilities as a last-ditch effort for a successful serum. To accomplish this, Oscorp sends out robots named Hunter-Killers to attack Spider-Man. Meanwhile, we're given a short tutorial based around air combat. Peter needs some new photos of Spider-Man to sell to the Bugle, so we set up cameras nearby as well as a balloon to target. Here we learn how to lock onto the balloon and fire webs at it to get some action shots. As we make our way back to the Daily Bugle, we're intercepted by the Hunter-Killers and must use our newly learned abilities to take them out. As we briefly discussed earlier, aerial combat was one of the big new innovations for this game, and we'll see it often throughout the story. This is a good introductory level for the aerial combat though, as the Hunter-Killers aren't too difficult to take out, but they provide enough of a challenge to get you ready for future levels. After destroying them all, Spider-Man swings away, wondering who could have sent those things after him. Those thoughts are quickly interrupted though, as he happens upon a robbery in progress by two major villains. We first see the Vulture flee the scene of the crime, followed next by Shocker as he attempts to escape in a getaway van with his men. Spider-Man decides to focus on Shocker, webbing the van and causing it to crash. Shocker and his men then decide to break into Grand Central Station in hopes of evading Spider-Man.
Don't panic, boys. It was only a matter of time before we had to deal with Spider-Man. Let's take care of security and get some hostages.
We've got a situation here. We need backup.
Backup is on the way.
Don't know who this creep is, but he's easy to follow.
Once inside Grand Central Station, we have to protect the security guards that Shocker's men are hoping to hold hostage. Even though protection missions are usually pretty annoying, I actually enjoyed this section a lot. Shocker's men are fun to beat up, and I also think I just feel more like Spider-Man now that I'm getting to play as him in the movie suit. I also really like how the security guards aren't pushovers and fight back against Shocker's men pretty effectively. Furthermore, some civilians are better at protecting themselves than others, as I learned in the next section. There are more security guards that are faced with thugs, but also one casual civilian. That civilian takes damage much more rapidly than the security guards, and I'm guessing it's because he's not as capable of a fighter, and I think that's a pretty cool detail. After saving everyone though, we get our first interaction with Shocker.
So you must be Quilt Man, Padded Pete, Mr. Triple Ply? Oh, I've got it. The cushion.
I'm the Shocker. I tell you not to forget it, but you won't be around long enough to worry about that. Now say goodbye to Mr. Innocent Bystander, sucker.
This dude has zero environmental awareness and is solely focused on whoever's on the other line. He must be talking to some girl from Tinder or something. Nevertheless, Spider-Man saves him and takes him somewhere safe before facing more of Shocker's henchmen. After taking them out, Shocker makes another escape route, this time into the sewers. In this level, puzzles and keys start to get thrown into the mix as we attempt to follow Shocker. We'll have to hit different switches in order to open locked doors, find and defeat a specific thug to acquire a key to another room, or my personal favorite one, where we have to track down a thug who's stolen a valve.
It's time to stop that freak! Vic, make it happen!
I'm on it.
I like the Valve guy the most because we have to chase him through a maze-like environment where we're often ambushed by extra thugs as we turn a new corner. None of these puzzles or key-finding sections are overly exciting, but they add enough variety to the mission structure that I'm still enjoying myself and not feeling bored. Eventually, we track down Shocker again as he blasts his way into these subway tunnels. This leads into a pretty cool section where Shocker sends a high-powered blast down the tunnels as we attempt to get closer to him. There are outlets that you can escape into between tunnels, but you have to act fast or else you'll get swept up in a damaging blast. But once we get closer to Shocker, he'll run off into the next room, which is where his boss fight takes place. I like this fight a lot more than the one against the mugger, and Shocker provides a good challenge. He'll run around the room firing shockwaves at us, and it feels like more of a ranged battle instead of a brawl. There are a lot of objects scattered around the area that you can pick up and throw at him, and I also found web bullets to be especially effective. Shocker will also perform some kind of tornado spin occasionally, but doing so makes him dizzy, leaving him open for additional attacks. It's a pretty fun battle and probably one of my favorites in the game. After beating Shocker though, we interrogate him for more information on Vulture.
If I don't get mine, Vulture isn't getting his. He had some workshop set up in the old clock tower on the Lower East Side.
Vulture, huh? Thanks, Shocker. Give my regards to my fans in the Slammer.
From here, we head to Vulture's hideout in an abandoned clock tower. All seems quiet until we start to ascend the tower, and Vulture starts lobbing grenades down at us. He's also rigged the inside of the tower with bombs and exploding spider bots. This is another traversal test area, where we have to rapidly ascend the tower and dodge all of Vulture's explosives. As we get higher up, Vulture will eventually sabotage his own hideout by setting it on fire.
You're becoming a thorn in my side. Today, you die, Spider-Man!
This ups the tension since we can no longer stick to the center of the tower, and Vulture increases the rate at which he sends explosives at us. Like with the Shocker level, I really like the concept, but the controls add an unfortunate layer of frustration to it. It can be tough to control Spider-Man at times, especially when you're needing to act fast. Still, this didn't ruin the level for me, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I like that the tower has a maze-like quality to it, so not only are you trying to dodge the flames and all of Vulture's explosives, but you're also trying to think on your feet and find alternate routes to blocked paths. This mission also forced me to start utilizing Spider-Man's web zip ability more often, as well as his wall crawling. It was really satisfying dodging obstacles by crawling on the ceiling the way only Spider-Man can. So despite some control issues, I ended up enjoying this level. Eventually, we make it to the top of the tower to confront Vulture. As a last resort, he dives out the tower to escape, and we follow after him. This leads to a chase sequence where we have to stay as close to Vulture as possible or he'll get away. That part is simple enough, but Vulture will also throw projectiles at you to slow you down, as well as destroy objects in the area in an attempt to cover his escape. For example, he destroys the legs of a billboard that we'll have to repair, or else it'll fall and kill innocent bystanders. We can do this by webbing up the legs, but we have to act fast so we can catch back up to Vulture. The chase will continue this way for a couple of minutes until we finally catch up to him for a final showdown. This boss fight focuses on aerial combat, where Vulture has the advantage in the sky. Our goal is to damage his wings enough that he'll have to land momentarily, giving us an opportunity to deal some damage. This boss fight isn't too difficult though, and Vulture can be overcome fairly easily with web attacks and dive kicks. The hardest part of this level is trying to get this gold spider icon at the top of the Chrysler building, since it becomes very narrow up top and Spider-Man climbs incredibly slow to get it. These icons unlock new attack combos, so they're pretty valuable, making it worth the struggle. Still, we eventually knock Vulture out and web him up until the police arrive.
We have a problem, sir. Our systems are detecting two distinct targets. Both genetic signatures resemble Spider-Man's. Take a look at this map. As you can see, each target is unique, but both have characteristics of arachnid DNA.
We don't have time to dawdle. Have the HKs force both targets into the same area. Once they're together, capturing both subjects shouldn't be a problem. Am I making myself clear?
Yes, sir.
Spiders! Spiders everywhere! Go back to your corporate masters! No! No! No!
Seeing an opportunity to grab two superpowered beings at the same time, Norman decides to have the Hunter-Killers chase Scorpion to Spider-Man's location. These Hunter-Killers are different from the ones we saw earlier though, and act like spiders. The Hunter-Killers are likely a reference to Spider Slayers from the comics, robotic creatures with the purpose of hunting down Spider-Man, although they're never explicitly called that in the game. Regardless, they're currently pursuing Scorpion, who is pretty terrified of them. He ends up getting chased to our location, a local parking garage, where we'll have to fight alongside him to destroy the robots. Although Scorpion is typically a villain in the comics, he does have a pitiable quality to him, and that's evident in the game as well. In the comics, Matt Gargan was a private investigator hired by J. Jonah Jameson with the task of following Peter Parker to learn how he gets such great photos of Spider-Man. Peter's spider sense made it easy to avoid Mac though, causing him to repeatedly fail Jonah's mission. Jonah eventually decides to pay Mac to undergo an experiment, mutating his DNA and giving him the abilities of a Scorpion. Alongside his enhanced abilities, he was also given a Scorpion suit and mechanical tail, both of which have been upgraded over the course of his criminal career by those hiring him as an assassin. However, although this original experiment was a success, it also drove him mad. We get a sense of this in the game as he seems extremely paranoid throughout these missions. At one point in the comics, Scorpion's mental state deteriorates so far that he believes that he's trapped inside his suit, although Spider-Man later proves that he's not. During this mission, Scorpion will occasionally yell about how much he hates his suit, so this could be a reference to those comics, indicating that he believes he's trapped inside it. For all I know though, he could legitimately be trapped in the suit for this game.
I hate the suit! I hate it!
But at this moment in time, it seems that this is Spider-Man's first ever encounter with Scorpion, and we have to protect him from the Spider-Bots. Even though I enjoyed the protection missions during the Shocker level, I felt the opposite here. In fact, I think this was the level that annoyed me the most in the entire game. Despite how badass Scorpion looks here, he gets taken down by the robots very easily. Not only can he take a lot of damage very quickly, but he'll also run around the parking garage, hiding on different levels. I lost track of him pretty often, and that was usually the point where he would take most of his damage. I think the main issue is that these Spider-Bots have a flamethrower ability that can take his health down halfway each time they use it, so Scorpion can be defeated in an instant. It's really disappointing because I think this level had the potential to be one of my favorites in the game had Scorpion either been more durable or the Spider-Bots been dialed back a bit, or if you just didn't have to worry about protecting Scorpion in general. It's really cool fighting alongside him and I love his design, but this level had me raging the most out of all of them. Eventually though, we defeat all the Spider-Bots and try to leave the parking garage with Scorpion. Unfortunately, he's so paranoid about people trying to capture him that he believes we're out to get him as well, forcing him to turn on us. We chase him back into Grand Central Station, where we have no choice but to fight him. This is a pretty good boss fight too though, since Scorpion provides a good challenge without being too overwhelming. Our main strategy is to keep him off the walls, since he can charge up a powerful blast from up high. Aside from that, we're mostly just trying to find a good opportunity to get some hits in, until we finally defeat him. Once he's down, Spider-Man turns his back momentarily to inspect a Spider-Bot, which unfortunately gives Scorpion an opportunity to escape. We never see him again in this game or the sequel, so I'm hoping he returns in the third game because I found him to be one of the most interesting characters here. I think it's because there's such a mysterious and troubled quality to Scorpion in this game. Oscorp don't seem to be familiar with him, he never mentions Jameson, and this seems to be Spider-Man's first encounter with him, which makes me think his origins are a bit different from the comics too. That's purely my speculation, but overall I would have liked to have learned more about Scorpion in general, because I found him to be a really intriguing character and I think there's an interesting story there to explore. Ultimately though, this means that Norman has failed again to capture Spider-Man, putting pressure on him to maintain his company.
The board can't fire me! I built this company, how dare they! I'll teach them a lesson they won't forget.
We aren't getting anywhere.
It's time, Doctor.
Mr. Osborn, I didn't hear.
Never mind that. We're proceeding with a human trial.
Human? I can't possibly condone.
Dr. Strom, either prepare the chamber or your resignation. Either way, I'm testing the serum now.
Mr. Osborn, are you all right?
Too bad Peter had to work.
Yeah. I'm just glad you're here. I can't wait for my dad to meet you.
Oh, Harry.
With Norman now fully transformed into the Green Goblin, we start to play levels that closely resemble the movie again. Based on the movie's plot, Goblin has attacked the Unity Day Festival as a way to kill the Oscorp board members before they can officially fire him. Mary Jane gets caught in the mix though and manages to get trapped on a panda parade balloon. We of course save her, but I like how they're so distracted during this cutscene that they don't even notice when the balloon falls and a bunch of people start screaming.
Yeah. Thanks again.
No problem. Grab hold of a rogue balloon anytime. Rescuing damsels is my specialty.
It's also worth mentioning that Mary Jane gives Spider-Man a kiss on the cheek for saving her, something that one of the Hunter bots takes a picture of. This will be important later, but for now, Mary Jane is safe, so we're free to fight Goblin. Goblin is another aerial combatant with a wide variety of projectiles. He has a few different pumpkin bombs at his disposal, as well as turrets on the glider. Like with Vulture, we'll use our webs and dive kicks to hurt Goblin, but I especially like how you can jump on his glider to get some punches in as well. Also, like Vulture, Goblin will eventually flee and try to cover his escape by damaging objects in the environment. We'll repair them with our webbing and continue to fight Goblin some more. After a while, he takes off again and we follow him to another part of the city for a more legitimate boss battle. It operates mostly the same as our introductory mission against Goblin, where we try to damage him in the air. This time though, his glider will begin to malfunction and he'll be forced to land inside one of the buildings. We follow him inside where we continue our fight on the ground. Goblin is a surprisingly skilled fighter though, and can deal a lot of damage up close if he gets his hands on you. You're not much better off at range either though, since he still has his arsenal of pumpkin bombs at his disposal as well. I found the best way to handle him was to chip away at his health with web bullets while occasionally looking for melee openings. Melee is tricky against him though, because he has this animation where he'll crouch down before performing a damaging choke move, and this can't be interrupted. You also can't use dive kicks against him either, because he'll catch you midair. So needless to say, Goblin is quite the challenge. When you finally deal enough damage to him though, he'll call out for his glider and take to the skies again. During the fight, Goblin suggests that he and Spider-Man partner up to take over the city together instead of being enemies. We of course decline and continue to damage his glider like we did earlier, but this time he drops into a different building. This one is full of arcing electricity and it's also much darker. Goblin will run around and hide to try and sneak up on you, making this even more challenging than the last fight. It's still really fun though, and Goblin's difficulty feels worthy of being the main villain of the game. Still, Goblin is offended that we didn't take him up on his offer to team up, and mentions that he's placed bombs around the city that will go off in a short amount of time. This takes us into a time trial where we have to race to each bomb and disarm it before it explodes. After successfully doing so, we leave the area while Goblin watches us and vows to take us down. If you play this game on Xbox, the next mission is an exclusive level featuring Kraven the Hunter.
So, you'll do it.
To hunt the Spider-Man. I will accept your challenge, Osborn, but keep your money. The thrill of the hunt will be compensation enough.
Get in here! What are you doing here? Why aren't you down at the zoo getting me pictures of this?
But I just...
Doesn't anyone do his job around here? It's right out my window. I could write the copy myself. Now get me photos.
Okay, Mr. Jameson.
I bet money Spider-Man's involved somehow.
If you're unfamiliar with the character, Kraven is a master hunter who prides himself on his skill to catch the deadliest of prey. In his eyes, Spider-Man is his biggest challenge yet and wants to prove his skill by killing him. He lures us to the local zoo where he's set up a series of traps.
Maybe I should get some kind of spider signal so people don't have to set things on fire to get my attention.
Welcome, Spider-Man. I am Kraven, the world's greatest hunter. Now that you are within my trap, we can begin our glorious contest of strength.
Is that like a sweepstakes? I always throw those away. Nice outfit, by the way. Where's Siegfried?
Let us hope your body moves as fast as your tongue, Spider.
This gas will chip away at our health the longer we stay in it, forcing us to run around the area quickly instead of taking our time. This adds more pressure to dodge the various traps littered around, and I think this level was very well designed. After escaping the first series of traps, Kraven is waiting outside with a sniper rifle and attempts to shoot us. We have to hide behind these columns whenever Kraven shoots, and run forward as he chambers the next round. I really love that we watch ourselves from Kraven's perspective, and I think that was a really clever idea. I praise the same thing in Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions since I played that game first, but now I realize that they must have taken that idea from Spider-Man 1, and it's cool seeing an idea from Spider-Man 1 used as inspiration for a future game. After escaping Kraven's gunfire, we're faced with another series of obstacles. The traps become more frequent and intricate as we continue through the building, and we'll have to dodge Kraven's sniper rifle a couple more times as well before completing his gauntlet. Now it's time to face Kraven himself, but we're still hindered by the effects of the gas. Kraven states that if we beat him, he'll reward us with the cure. He won't just be a standard fight though, because he has an extra trick up his sleeve. After a while, Kraven will drink a potion that makes him relatively unstoppable, forcing you to evade him until his potion wears off. He's pretty scary too, and he'll chase you around the level. I also like that he uses your depleting health against you, since if you need a health token at any point, you'll have to put yourself at risk to obtain it. For example, you have to jump into this snake pit to retrieve this token, and the snakes will bite at you if you don't escape fast enough. I needed another health token later on as well, and thought I was lucky to find one in this room, only to be locked in by Kraven while the room filled with gas. It's a really intricate level, and it always felt like Kraven was one step ahead of me. He's a really difficult fight, and Xbox players lucked out with this great exclusive level. But after a tough fight, we eventually get the upper hand and defeat Kraven.
Well played, Spider. You are as cunning as I had heard. Here is the antidote, as I promised.
Thanks for nothing. Who put you up to this?
I did what I did for the challenge of it. That is all I will say.
Great! Well, the nice policeman will be by soon to take you back to your padded room. You be a good boy until they get here.
That ends the exclusive content though, and brings us back to the main story. While Spider-Man searches the city for Green Goblin, Goblin actually finds us first and ambushes us with razor bats. Even after defeating 50 of them, Goblin's supply seems never ending and we become overwhelmed by the amount of razor bats attacking us. Spider-Man remembers an abandoned construction site nearby and decides to hide out there until Goblin leaves. Peter also finds a piece of a destroyed razor bat and decides to take it home to analyze it. There's also a really cool Easter egg hidden in this level, but we'll discuss that a bit later on in the video.
Whoever this Green Goblin is, he seems to be working for Oscorp. Murder and corporate sabotage. Harry would be devastated if he found out his dad was involved. I have to get to the bottom of this, and that means an unannounced visit to Oscorp.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man?
Well, well, well. What a tangled web we weave. It seems I have a date tonight.
It seems like a bit of a stretch to me that Norman thinks that Spider-Man has a relationship with Mary Jane after she kissed him on the cheek for saving her, but I'll go with it. Also, it's probably not a great idea to leave your goblin suit on display in your office for anyone to find, especially after you've been murdering people in it. But I digress. We return back to Spider-Man as we attempt to infiltrate Oscorp for more information. This is our first stealth level, as we have to sneak past security guards and obtain pieces of a code from different computers scattered around the building. If you're spotted, it's not game over, but the building will go into high alert. You can try to fight any guards that spot you, but they start to question you as a hero if you do so, which made me feel bad.
I used to think you were a hero. Intruder!
It's also not best to stay and fight if you're spotted, because Oscorp security bots will come out to fight you as well, and they'll beat the hell out of you. So your best bet is to run and hide in the shadows until the alarm shuts off. Although the stealth mission wasn't executed flawlessly, I actually enjoyed the change of pace. The environment is very quiet, and I felt a lot of tension as I attempted to retrieve a code with a security guard walking around nearby. It was fun sneaking around the building and exploring, but if you're not careful, you can accidentally walk into a break room where all of the security guards and robots are hanging out. It's a pretty cool mission, and I was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed it. After obtaining all 5 pieces of the code, we use it to unlock the big metal door to Oscorp's lab. Once inside, we find a lab technician who has a guilty conscience about Oscorp's experiments with chemical weapons. With this information, Spider-Man decides to take a detour and handle the chemical weapons before continuing on with his investigation into the Goblin. This is another stealth level, but with much more security to avoid. There's still security guards, but we're also faced against spotlights and laser grids littered around the level. If you trigger one, it will send a bunch of those security robots to hunt for you. Aside from that though, our goal is to reach 4 different chemical stations and trigger them in the correct order to disable the chemical weapons. This is a more advanced stealth mission, but I think I preferred the simplicity of the first one. After disabling Oscorp's chemical weapons though, we escape the lab only to accidentally wander into another boss fight.
This place is a maze. Where the heck am I now? Holy, that thing's bigger than Long Island and it doesn't look too friendly. The sensor array has a shield around it. I'll have to take out the shield generators first.
In order to make the giant mech vulnerable to damage, you have to swing around and destroy its power generators. This isn't as easy as it sounds though, since the room is littered with flying hunter killers and rocket launchers that will attempt to shoot you if you get nearby. Even more deadly though is the mech itself, and if you're in front of it for too long, it'll send out a massive energy blast that can rapidly kill you. It's not incredibly difficult though, since you mostly just have to swing around and attempt to lock onto each power generator and spam your webs at it until it's finally destroyed. After destroying all of the power generators, you're free to damage the main sensor array, putting this mech out of commission for good. With the mech destroyed, we're now free to infiltrate Norman's office for clues.
Goblin! No!
Now that we know Norman is after Mary Jane, we have to quickly evacuate the Oscorp building before we can reach her. Unfortunately, Oscorp security is on to us and has gone into high alert and is swarming with security. Not only that, but they've put up energy barricades preventing us from running straight out of the building. In order to escape, we have to sneak past security and reach the different control panels to depower the barricades. There's a maze-like quality to this level too, and there were a couple times where I would accidentally trap myself in a room even though I thought I was progressing towards the exit. I enjoyed this level a lot, and it was really tense as I attempted to retrace my steps back to the entrance before becoming overwhelmed by security bots. The final hallway is also really cool, as robots will storm in from the side as you try to race past them. But now that we've managed to escape, it's time to head towards Mary Jane.
What a day.
Tough day at the office, huh? Mine is a killer. Put your heart into those streams, my lovely girl, the better to bait my trap.
Too late. Don't worry, Mary Jane. I'm coming.
We chase after Goblin until we reach the bridge. He sets Mary Jane down, but also sets the top of the bridge on fire. We have to first save Mary Jane, and then we can face Goblin for the last time. This is a pretty solid final boss battle too. It starts similar to our first fight against him, where we have to deal a certain amount of damage to him, forcing him to jump off the glider and fight us on the ground. However, he's even more formidable on the ground this time. He was a tough fighter before, but now he puts the glider on autopilot while we fight. So not only do we have to watch out for Goblin's physical attacks and pumpkin bombs, but we also have to watch out for the glider. After a certain amount of time, Goblin will hop back on the glider and you have to go through the same process again. It's not incredibly complex or difficult, but I think it's thematic and challenging enough that it's a fitting final battle, and it ended up being my favorite boss fight of the game. But that brings us to the final cutscene.
Mr. Osborn. Why?
Surprised? Yes, I suppose you would be. But the best surprise is still to come. Tell Harry I'm sorry.
I'm sorry too. Mary Jane, there's something I have to tell you.
I know, Tiger. You don't have to say.
That's my life. Complicated. Looks like you're done now. Go outside and play.
Norman's death has always bothered me, especially in the movie. Even if he managed to take out Spider-Man with his glider, he'd still impale himself too, since he's also standing in its path, so I don't know what he was thinking. I also found it interesting that it suggested that Mary Jane knows that Peter is Spider-Man here, and they finally form a relationship, while in the movie, Peter keeps it a secret. It makes me wonder if this was the original ending of the script that Treyarch got to read that James Zachary mentioned was changed in the film. I'm also not sure how I feel about Peter's final voiceover as the game concludes. At one point he tells you that the game is over, and that you should go outside and play. I have to imagine that that was really belittling to any adults that played this game when it first released, as if it was only made for children. Or maybe I'm just feeling personally attacked. Regardless, I found it to be an odd choice. But that ends the story of Spider-Man 1. Overall, I thought it was handled pretty well for a movie tie-in game. I think the writers were able to find a good balance of what worked well from the movie mixed in with their own original story levels. Usually, it's a very noticeable decrease in level quality when you shift from the developer's original levels to levels adapted from the movie, with the movie sections being the worst. I think everything fits very nicely in this story though, and I really enjoyed all the villains that were included for the game. So I don't have any major complaints with the story, and I think it's pretty solid overall. However, the story isn't totally finished at this point though, since there is a new narrative that you can play through after beating the game. If you're able to beat the game on hero difficulty, you unlock a playable Green Goblin who has his own unique story arc. You'll go through all the same levels that you played through as Spider-Man, but this time you're playing as Harry Osborn with the Green Goblin tech. I won't retread the entire story again, since Harry's storyline is kind of stitched together to fit the levels that we played in the main story, but ultimately, Harry is attempting to unravel the secrets of his father's life as well as secret plots at Oscorp. Along the way, he runs into another Green Goblin, who states that he was hired by Norman to take up the mantle. We never learn who this new goblin is, but Harry needs to take him down all the same. Having a playable Green Goblin as a bonus is such an exciting feature and really elevates this game for me. I really appreciate that they went the extra mile to give him his own story arc as well, but his gameplay is the real highlight. Speaking of which, let's start to get into the gameplay of Spider-Man 1.
What's going on over here? Who the heck? He sure took off in a hurry. Yikes! Not so fast.
Come on, move it! This wall is coming down.
The combat in Spider-Man 1 is pretty good for the most part. One attack button allows you to punch, and the other allows you to kick. You can use these in a variety of combos, but you'll have to unlock them throughout the game first by finding these gold spider icons, and they're the only way to improve your fighting prowess. The idea behind this was to show Spider-Man as a fledgling superhero at this point, and collecting more combos throughout the game is him slowly learning to be a better fighter as he gains more experience as Spider-Man. I think I prefer upgrade stores or skill trees for learning new combos in games, but I do like how it incentivized me to explore the environments more. The combos are pretty simple to use as well, never going beyond 3 button inputs, which I liked for this game. The combat feels better the more combos that you collect, just due to the variety, but I never felt like it was necessary to collect them all. You can get through the entire game with just a few, especially if you pick up one of the diving attacks early on. I found this handspring attack to be especially effective since it gets you out of enemy melee range and targets large groups of enemies, causing knockback as well. I also really enjoyed another combat mechanic where you can jump onto the enemy's shoulders and punch them out. It's simple but satisfying. Spider-Man also has a small variety of web attacks at his disposal, all of which are unlocked from the beginning. Not only can you tie up enemies with your webs, but you can also yank them towards you, create web gloves for extra damage, fire web bullets, and probably the most fun is this web shield that prevents all damage for a time, and when it's released, it damages all nearby enemies. The web attacks are a lot of fun to use and are very handy, but they come at a cost. Using Spider-Man's webs depletes his blue web meter, and the only way to refill it is to find the blue spider icons scattered around each level. I found this to be strange though, because in the movie, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man has organic webbing. Needing to refill your webs only makes sense if Peter is using web cartridges like he did in the comics. There's probably a couple reasons why Treyarch might have chosen to go this route though. To start, web attacks are pretty strong in this game, so limited webbing was likely a good way to balance things out. Potentially a more likely reason, though, is that this is a holdover from the Spider-Man PlayStation 1 games, where Treyarch took a lot of inspiration. Those games also required you to refill your webbing, but they were based more on the comics, so refilling your web cartridges was more accurate. I know it's a really minor nitpick in the grand scheme of things, and it didn't ruin the experience, but it did stand out to me. However, if the thematics do bother you in this case, Treyarch included the ability to use unlimited webbing either via cheat codes or by acquiring 50,000 points in the game, so it does exist in some capacity. Let's go back to Goblin for a second though. His basic attacks are the exact same as Spider-Man's, requiring him to find spider icons to unlock new combos, but his special attacks are different. Instead of using webbing, Goblin has a variety of pumpkin bombs that he can throw at enemies. There are the standard ones that bounce and blow up, but there are also ones that track the enemy or split off into multiple bombs to cover a large area. Excuse the pun, but these are a blast to use and it is incredibly satisfying to run around launching bombs across the area. You can also throw razor bats to damage enemies, but they also have a repair feature, which is how you get past those chase sequences with Vulture and Goblin. You also have the ability to run like the Flash for a moment, damaging enemies in your path. This isn't an ability of his that I'm familiar with from the comics, and especially not the movie, but it's an interesting inclusion nonetheless. Like Spider-Man's webbing though, these abilities aren't unlimited. The same way Spider-Man has a web meter, Goblin has what I'll call a tech meter. After using a certain number of bombs, you'll have to search the area for blue spider icons to replenish your supply. Where Goblin really shines though is via his glider. It is so much fun to use this thing, and Treyarch did a great job with its gameplay. It handles pretty smooth, and it comes with a good host of weaponry inside it as well. There's of course the internal machine gun that you can use to spray at enemies, but there's also blades that you can fire off as well, which I found to be the most deadly since they also track enemies. You can also drop bombs from the bottom of the glider, allowing you to perform airstrikes on groups of enemies. The glider is extremely powerful, so the drawback is that it can overheat if you're spamming these abilities too frequently. If you overheat it, you'll have to wait for it to cool down before you can fire projectiles again. It's not too tough to maintain these meters though, and I think the developer struck a good balance between giving you the freedom to use a lot of glider attacks without making it feel like you would overheat too easily. It's especially fun going back and fighting the other Goblin, because this battle feels totally different. Instead of trying to jump on the glider or dive kick Goblin with Spider-Man, it's a lot more like an aerial dogfight, trying to get behind each other and bombard them with bombs and bullets. It's a lot of fun. The glider's traversal feels really good too, even within buildings surprisingly. I think you ultimately have more control over Spider-Man's traversal since you can crawl on walls and web zip to nearby areas if needed, but Goblin's speed usually gets him through most tough situations, and Vulture's clock tower is a good example of that. To my surprise, he's actually pretty fun during the stealth missions too. If you're ever caught, his speed makes it incredibly easy to escape. It was also nice because I didn't feel bad about beating up the security guards as Goblin either, which made breaking into Oscorp much easier. However, he does look a little goofy when he has to hide, with Goblin just hovering on this giant glider in the shadows. Even though Goblin excels in a ton of different areas, he does feel a bit limited in certain combat scenarios. As Spider-Man, you can web up enemies to thin out large groups momentarily, and this is especially useful against enemies with guns. Since Goblin can't do that, he can start to feel vulnerable against large groups and gunfire. He can still evade them pretty easily using the glider and quickly find a health icon, but these combat encounters did feel like they took me longer to get through compared to Spider-Man. Still, I think I ultimately had more fun playing as Goblin just because he has so many fun gadgets and the glider is so satisfying to use. If I had one criticism for the gameplay in Spider-Man 1 though, it's that there isn't a dodge mechanic. In Spider-Man games after this one, you can use the spider sense to dodge attacks and counter enemies. In this game, you pretty much just have to jump around or soak up some hits. In one cutscene, Spider-Man's spider sense goes off and he does a couple flips to dodge out of the way, and I really wish they included something like that for the gameplay. Maybe it's just because I'm so used to that in modern Spider-Man games, but its absence was really noticeable here. Still, I ended up enjoying the gameplay of Spider-Man 1 as a whole.
One heck of a doorbell Vulture's got. Must be a pain to get groceries up here.
Ah, pest! Why can't you leave me in peace?
You'll have plenty of time alone once you're in jail.
Even though the game's story is pretty short and took me about 5 hours to complete, there's a good variety of extras to unlock and play through as well. We'll start with the training sections. Before beginning the story of the game, you're given the option to go through a training mission as Peter Parker to learn the controls. Guiding you through the tutorial sections is none other than Bruce Campbell. Typically, tutorials are pretty boring and straightforward, but Bruce Campbell has a lot of sass towards the player, which makes it way more enjoyable.
Alright, now let's get started. Now get the gum out of your ears and listen good. Touch the question mark directly in front of you. Well, good to see that you can follow basic instructions.
Outside of that standard tutorial mission are more advanced ones that you can select from the menu. They each focus on a certain aspect of the game, like traversal or combat, and can be a fun test of skill. Bruce Campbell also gives you the rundown of each mission prior to you starting it, which I think makes it worth trying out each one at least once.
When I was just a tyke, I used to spend every summer at my grandpa's farm.
Stinky,
He'd say over the molasses.
you need to land on each platform in order. That's what life's all about. When you land on a platform,
He would drone on.
it'll change green, just like the apples in Nana's peach cobbler. Your compass and height meter will point toward the next platform.
We never knew what he was talking about with that height meter business.
I won't go through all of them, but there are a couple cool ones worth mentioning. One of my favorites is Big Brawl, where you have to defeat 3 waves of enemies before the timer runs out. Not only is this a cool combat mode, but it also includes some enemy types that weren't in the main game. For example, there are these mobile turret machines that I'm guessing were just an unused enemy type from Oscorp. There are also these enemies who look to be based on the prototype goblin armor from the movie. These enemies don't add anything crazy to the combat, but it's still cool to see exclusive enemy types to this mode. I also really love the basic combat training mode, which puts you in the wrestling ring from the movie to fight progressively more challenging enemies. The best part about this fight though is that if you beat all the henchmen, Bonesaw McGraw will come out to fight you. He has a much higher health pool and does more damage than the other enemies you face, making him a challenging opponent. You don't get anything special for beating him, but just being able to fight him as a secret character is exciting enough. Another thing that I like about these training missions is that you can bring Goblin into them as well, so you can fight Bonesaw in the wrestling ring using Goblin, or cheat your way through a high score using the glider for web zip training. Goblin is excluded from one special mission though, but it's still potentially my favorite one. At a certain point you unlock Pinhead Bowling. In this mode you're placed in a bowling alley and use Spider-Man's swinging web kick to knock down webbed enemies like bowling pins. You can even play with your friends, since it keeps score for up to 4 players. Even better is that each player gets their own Spider-Man costume to use. You can also walk around the bowling alley and there are some fun details within it. I couldn't find any specific comic Easter eggs, but there are some different movie posters on the wall, and if you go to the back wall, you can see photos of all the developers. There are a couple fun photos hidden within here too, since you can find one that's a dog, and I think this one's a peanut. I also just really love the atmosphere of the bowling alley. It has a really clean design, and the music and sound effects are top notch.
Attention bowlers, attention bowlers. The lanes will be closed Thursday for the Regional Miss Wisconsin semi-final. Thank you for your understanding.
It's a really simple concept for a bonus mode, but there's something so satisfying about it that I couldn't help but stay and play within it for a while. Even just playing against yourself as all 4 players was really enjoyable. I briefly mentioned alternate costumes, so let's talk about that next. Either through cheat codes or by completing certain difficulties in the game, you can unlock new outfits. The first one is of course the Human Spider wrestling outfit from the beginning of the game. The next outfit allows you to completely forgo your secret identity and play as Peter Parker. My favorite of the unlockable Spider-Man outfits though is the Alex Ross Spider-Man suit. This outfit is based on an unused concept for the movie suit created by famous comic book artist Alex Ross. If you're not familiar with his work, he does a lot of photorealistic comic book artwork for Marvel and DC. He's one of my personal favorite comic book artists, and if you're interested in his work, I highly recommend checking out a graphic novel he illustrated called Marvels. But his design in the game is really cool too. Even more badass though is that Treyarch also used his Green Goblin design in the game. If you wear the Alex Ross Spider-Man outfit, goblins will automatically be swapped into his Alex Ross outfit as well. I absolutely love this design, and it's a really creepy outfit for Goblin that kind of modernizes his comic look. The only downside is that you can't use this outfit for the playable Harry Osborn Goblin, so it's exclusive to playing as Spider-Man. Those are the 3 main outfits that you can unlock in the game, but there's an even larger variety via cheat codes, and Treyarch gives you a pretty interesting selection. For example, you can play as some of the NPCs in the game, like a security guard, a scientist, some of the thugs, and even that prototype goblin suit. Interestingly enough, you can also play as Uncle Ben's killer. My favorite of the cheat code skins though is the Shocker. He's still just a skin, so you don't get his voice actor or any exclusive abilities, but it's pretty cool swinging around the city as the Shocker. However, there was one other cheat code skin originally, but it has since been disabled. That skin is of Mary Jane, which seems pretty harmless, right? Well, the reason it was disabled is kind of disappointing. At the end of the game, Spider-Man kisses Mary Jane. So if you're playing as MJ, you now have 2 girls kissing, which was considered very taboo at the time, so the cheat code was quickly disabled. You can still use it though if you have an early copy of the game, which is how I was able to get video of it. It's a shame that this was considered a problem back in the day, but I'm glad we're finally getting beyond that taboo in games now. In all reality though, there's nothing exciting about this kiss either. This image is of them mid-kiss and they're not even making contact. In fact, there are much more jarring kisses you can create with the other skins in the game, like having Shocker kiss Mary Jane, or the Mugger. Regardless, I still found it interesting that the cheat was disabled in the first place. Outside of skins, there are some other really cool cheats you can enable as well. For example, you can play the game in first-person mode, which is kind of cool for the first level. It's fun to swing around the city in first person, but you'll run across a lot of issues that start to break the immersion, as Spider-Man's character model will start to block the camera. There's also a cheat to give Spider-Man a big head and big feet, which is actually pretty humorous to watch. On the opposite end, you can make Spider-Man very tiny, which was much cooler than I expected. The environment feels a lot different with this cheat enabled and made me really want an Ant-Man game. My favorite cheat though is called Dodge This, which adds slow-mo to your attacks. This is my new preferred way to play the game because it looks really cool every time it triggers. Lastly, there's a really interesting Easter egg during the mission where Goblin ambushes you with razor bats. Instead of running straight into the construction site to hide, if you wait around for a bit, a UFO will arrive. It'll zip around the sky for a moment, but eventually it'll hover over this building and release a tractor beam. I tried standing underneath it to see if it would do anything, but it never does. The UFO always follows the same pattern of flying to this building and then flying off. I have no idea what the point of the UFO is in this level, but it's a really intriguing inclusion. I know in Spider-Man 2, Mysterio creates the illusion of an alien invasion at one point, so I don't know if Treyarch were teasing that for the next game, or if they just wanted to include a fun sci-fi Easter egg. Either way, it's a very interesting Easter egg, and one that I didn't even know existed until this recent playthrough. So ultimately, although the main story itself is relatively short, there's a lot of supplementary content to keep you engaged for longer. Green Goblin is so much fun to play as, and it's definitely worth another playthrough of the story just to play as him, especially since he has an exclusive story arc and some unique alternate voice lines spoken by other characters to tie it together. I love all the additional modes that were included in the game too though, like Pinhead Bowling and the Wrestling Arena. Even though these don't add a ton of replay value, I think they're still fun inclusions and let you engage with the game a little bit longer.
It'll begin soon. You must not be delayed.
If you already watched my video on Spider-Man 2, you'll know I had some criticisms for the voice acting, especially from the movie actors, and especially from Tobey Maguire. In that game, his performance felt flat, kind of like he was sleepwalking through it, so I was nervous coming into this game that it would be more of the same. To my surprise, Tobey is actually excellent in this game. I don't know what the difference was between the two games, whether it be the voice direction or Tobey being less interested in the sequel or what, but I really enjoy his performance here. He's giving a lot more energy, and I feel like he's actually having fun in the role. The same goes for Willem Dafoe, reprising his role from the film as Green Goblin. Willem is excellent in everything he does though, so I wasn't too concerned about him prior to playing the game. Still, his voice is so perfect as Goblin, and it's a real joy hearing his lines in the game.
Misguided fool! I've offered you the world and you've thrown it away! Well, I'll cure you of your deluded ideals soon enough.
Save it. You're done.
That's what you think. I've arranged for a little parting gift. Throughout downtown are bombs have planted filled with a deadly gas. When they go off, well, use your imagination. You might be able to stop them, or you can try to stop me. The choice is yours, hero.
I think it's also him voicing the Mystery Goblin if you play the game as Harry, but with another layer of modulation added on top of it to make his voice less recognizable.
This all seems eerily familiar. I don't know who you think you are, but you're mistaken if you think you can threaten my friends.
It's about time we met Oscorp. Go ahead and save the girl, if you can.
Bruce Campbell is the only other actor from the film voicing someone in the game, but he's playing himself here. He was a major highlight in Spider-Man 2 and one of my favorite parts about that game. He's not quite as great here, but he's still a highlight. In this first game, you can feel him getting acclimated to the role, and his jokey, sarcastic lines feel more experimental here compared to the sequel, where they went all in on it. I'm not saying that as a criticism either, just that I found that progression interesting to witness, especially in contrast to Tobey, who feels better in the first game and worse in the sequel. I still really enjoy Bruce's lines in this game though, and I think it's rare to be this entertained during tutorial missions.
Are you ready to dish out some old-fashioned justice? Throw a punch with the square button. Ooh! And kick with the circle button. Yaha! It may not be pretty, but it gets the job done.
Kirsten Dunst and James Franco did not return to voice their characters in the game, which makes sense since both of them only have a couple lines throughout it. Still, I want to talk about Harry's voice actor Josh Keaton. Josh voices Harry in Spider-Man 2 as well, and in that video, I speculated that Josh could have very easily voiced Spider-Man for the game had Tobey declined to do so. Little did I know that was actually the case. For this game, Josh Keaton had originally been hired to play Peter Parker's Spider-Man, and had even recorded a lot of those lines. It wasn't until later that Tobey signed on to play the role that they had to switch Josh over to voicing Harry. I think this is a big reason we have a playable Green Goblin in the first place, since they just reused all of those voice lines that Josh had recorded as Peter and used them for Harry. So if you play the story as Harry, you'll actually recognize a lot of repeated lines said by both Tobey and Josh. It's kind of cool listening to those lines side by side just to get a glimpse at what might have been had Josh ended up voicing Spider-Man. I'll play some of those examples next so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about, but keep in mind they did add some light modulation to Josh's voice as Harry since he's in the Goblin suit.
I can't let anything stop me. I have to find a way to shut off the power so I can get through.
I can't let anything stop me. I have to find a way to shut off the power so I can get through.
Help! What's going on? You really ought to pay more attention.
Help! What's going on? You really ought to pay more attention.
Come on, freak. You need to learn a lesson, and Shocker's School of Hard Knocks is now open.
Oh, give me a break, Shock. I can't believe you have any class, let alone a whole school worth.
Give me a break, Shock. I can't believe you have any class, let alone a whole school worth.
The rest of the voice cast does an incredible job as well, and there weren't any performances that I thought were bad. I think the voice actor who had the biggest shoes to fill though was Jay Gordon, voicing Bonesaw McGraw and J. Jonah Jameson. Both of these characters from the movies had such iconic voices that I can only imagine how tough it would be to either try and replicate Randy Savage and J.K. Simmons, or to try and do your own thing with those characters. The end result in the game is that both of those characters sound a bit underwhelming, but I think those voices were destined to feel that way unless the actors from the movie returned to portray them. So all things considered, I think Jay Gordon did a good job with what he had. Fun fact about Jay Gordon is that he seems to have left voice acting soon after playing Jonah in Spider-Man 2, and is now the lead singer of a metal band called Orgy. They're actually not terrible either. I haven't played any clips of Bonesaw in this video yet, so here are some examples of Bonesaw and Jameson.
It's time to tussle! That's in below the belt! Gonna snap you like a twig!
Shall we dance?
Me at Tussle Fest 4, this Sunday at the Moosehead Arena, only on pay-per-view!
Partner, get in here! What are you doing here? Why aren't you down at the zoo getting me pictures of this?
But I just...
Doesn't anyone do his job around here? It's right out my window. I could write the copy myself. Now get me photos.
Oh, Parker. I don't pay you for your opinion, Parker. I pay you for photos.
Well,
Let me guess. You don't have any pictures, do you? You're fired. Come back when you get me shots of that red and blue wacko.
I'm not too familiar with the rest of the voice cast in the game, but they all do an excellent job. Some of the standouts for me were Michael Beatty as the Shocker.
It's time to stop that freak. Vic, make it happen!
Gary Anthony Sturgis as Kraven the Hunter.
I am Kraven, the world's greatest hunter. Now that you are within my trap, we can begin our glorious contest of strength.
And Dwight Schultz as the Vulture.
You're becoming a thorn in my side. Today, you die, Spider-Man!
I did recognize one of Dwight's future roles though, where he voices the incredibly creepy Professor Pig in Batman Arkham Knight. Having heard him play Vulture, I can hear the similarities.
Bad. Pig is like clay. Pig is like a god. Pig is here to fix us all.
But now that we've discussed the voice cast, let's listen to some of the music in the game. The music was composed and conducted by Michael McQuistion, and I've selected 4 of my favorite tracks for you to listen to. The first track is one you'll hear during the beginning of the game as you hunt the Skull Gang. It has an epic quality to it and works great as an opening combat theme. Next up is the music that plays during the intro of the game, and it has a triumphant quality to it. I think it's a great theme for the emergence of Spider-Man, and it's also incredibly thematic. Next is a theme that plays during your fights against Green Goblin, and I love the feeling of menace the track is able to evoke. Lastly is the main menu music that you'll hear before starting the game. Main menu music has no business being this good, and I think it really sets the tone for the rest of the game. I know I said there would only be 4 tracks, but I couldn't help but add a 5th one, because there's no way we couldn't discuss it at some point. During the end credits, one of the songs you hear is a remix using voice lines from Tobey Maguire and Willem Dafoe. I can't decide if I find this hilarious or legitimately catchy, or maybe it's a mix of both. I'll play it now and you can tell me what you think.
Goblin! You aren't getting away from me! I'm going to destroy you. Don't be so difficult, Spider-Man! You messed with the wrong guy. This battle will settle things. Now I've got you. Come on, Rusty. Let's dance.
Overall, I think the audio in this game is top-notch, and each track fits its level perfectly. Whether it's a quiet and slow track to build up tension in the Oscorp stealth levels, or something high energy for your intense battles with Goblin, there wasn't a track that felt out of place, and the same goes for the sound effects. I also really enjoyed the voice acting, and I was surprised at how great every performance was, even from some of the smaller characters. So overall, I was incredibly pleased with everything we received from an audio standpoint.
Ought to be down this way. Here we go.
I think when we look back on these old Spider-Man movie games, Spider-Man 1 is often overshadowed by how revolutionary Spider-Man 2 was, and how memeable Spider-Man 3 is. Although this game is easily forgotten and overlooked, it does have a lot of great characteristics. The story is a good blend between the movie and its own original levels, and managed to hold my attention the entire time. I think the combat overall is pretty solid, and the voice actors all turned in some really fun performances. I also really appreciate the amount of additional unlockables there are after you beat the game, and I think they can offer some fun replay value. The graphics have held up surprisingly well too, and I really love all the character models and outfits used in the game. The colors look really vibrant, especially characters with brighter colored outfits like Spider-Man and Shocker. There are definitely moments where this game is a joy to look at. However, for everything it does well, it still managed to fade into obscurity amongst other Spider-Man titles. I remember when it first released in 2002 how much of an impressive improvement it felt over the PlayStation 1 games, primarily in its graphics and city scale, but revisiting it now, it doesn't feel like it has any inventive ideas to make it stand out from the other Spider-Man games. It borrowed a lot from the Neversoft PS1 game, and the 2004 sequel was the one that really changed how we expect to see Spider-Man games now. I think it being sandwiched in between those two classics kind of overshadowed it, but I also don't think it brings much to the table to stand up on its own. So ultimately, it ends up feeling kind of middling compared to other Spider-Man games. It's also an incredibly short experience, and it's a game you could have rented from Blockbuster and had completed by the end of the weekend. However, if this game has one big unique feature that should draw your attention, it's the playable Green Goblin. To my knowledge, we haven't really had another fleshed out playable Green Goblin in any other Marvel games, with maybe the closest being Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, but still, this game's Green Goblin is definitely more in-depth and immersive. So I think if there's any reason to revisit Spider-Man 1, it's to try out playing as the Green Goblin, because they really nailed it. Even though I'm somewhat criticizing Spider-Man 1 for feeling like a middle-of-the-road experience, it's by no means a bad game, and it's one that I think anyone would enjoy, even today nearly a couple decades after its initial release. For what it gives you, it's definitely a fun ride with cool novelty experiences and unlockables. So I want to be clear that I did enjoy my time revisiting this game, I just think it struggles to stand out amongst so many other great Spider-Man games, both before and after its release. So with that said, I personally give Spider-Man 1 a 7.5 out of 10. It's a fun game with a lot of personality, but it's not something you have to experience. As with the other retrospectives on this channel, I wanted to compare my score with that of critics and other fans on Metacritic. I went ahead and checked out the scores on Xbox since that's the more complete version and also has the higher scores. Currently, Metacritic has a critic score of 79 out of 100 and a user score of 75. So it looks like Metacritic and I are in pretty close agreement for this game at least. But that pretty much sums up my thoughts on Spider-Man 1 the movie game. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you gave it a like since it helps this channel reach more viewers, and if you'd like to see more content like this, you can also hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all new retrospectives releasing to this channel. Speaking of which, let's talk about what to expect next. I recently held a poll for viewers to decide what retrospective they would like to see next, and the results are in. It looks like we'll be talking about Spider-Man Edge of Time, the sequel to Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. In the meantime, while I work on that, if you're in the mood for more Spider-Man content, I have retrospectives up for both Shattered Dimensions and Spider-Man 2. Beyond that, there are plenty of other Marvel game retrospectives for you to check out as well, and if you'd like to discuss all things Marvel with other fans, you can join us on Discord, the link is in the description below. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.